Okay, so let's consider the points in time where we might need to make transactions related to our bonds payable. When we issue the bond itself, we're going to have to make a transaction because that, in essence, is a promise to pay something back, right? So that's going to trigger an obligation getting recognized when we issue those bonds. Likewise, when we get rid of the bonds, whether we're redeeming them at the end of their maturity or if we're getting rid of them early. So both of those would qualify as bond retirement. But obviously, if we're paying to get out of those obligations, that's going to necessitate a transaction that needs to be made. Sometimes bonds are sold with a conversion privilege for the bondholder to convert that bond into common stock. So we're talking about the ability of the debt holder to convert that obligation into ownership in our company. And we're not going to get into those types of transactions in this class, but that would be a point in time where we would need to consider making a transaction related to bonds payable, so I wanted to mention it. Every time that we're making bond interest payments, we're going to have a transaction to make. And then, of course, considering what do we get in exchange for our bonds. When we issue a bond, that price that we receive is going to be based on what the present value of the future cash flows are for that bond. So when we think about that, that's going to be driven by the market rate, right? Now, we know that we have a rate of interest that's expressed on our bond document, and that's going to be driving what these are, right? So we call that our contractual rate or the stated rate. So it's the contractual or stated rate that is going to be influencing how much in terms of our interest payments have to be made. That's the rate we're going to use with our face times rate times time. But the market rate is going to drive the issue price, okay? So when we're talking about the market rate and present value, what the investors who are investing in these bonds payables are looking at is they want to know what's the present value of those future cash flows that are coming. So they're going to be looking at the present value of a single sum, which is going to be the maturity at the maturity, okay? That's going to be the face amount. So they're going to be adding the present value of the face amount right now, and they're going to be looking at all those interest payments and figuring out what the present value of those annuity payments, this is interest, right, that's being paid, and the sum of those two things are going to determine the issue price of bonds.